Welcome back to Bore Me to Bed, the channel where we gently drift through the most quietly fascinating corners of history, one sleepy story at a time. Tonight, we're sinking into something soft and timeless. From piles of straw on cave floors to towering royal four-posters, we'll explore how humans have shaped the way we rest through the centuries. So fluff your pillow, pull up the covers, and get cozy as we drift through the sleepy history of beds. In the quiet hush of night, the story of beds unfolds gently across time. Picture a world long before the bustle of cities or the glow of electric lights. A world where early humans sought rest under the vast canvas of stars. Our journey begins here, in the soft darkness of prehistory, where the first beds were not much more than nature's own offering. There is no urgency in this ancient night, only the slow rhythm of crickets chirping and a faint breeze whispering through leaves as our ancestors settle down to sleep. Imagine a family in a dim cave tens of thousands of years ago. The floor is cool stone, but they have gathered armfuls of dry grass and soft leaves to make a comfortable heap on which to lie. A fire nearby crackles low and warm, painting gentle flickers of light on the cavern walls. Over the makeshift bed they have draped animal furs, the pelts providing much-needed warmth and a sense of security against the chill of the night. As they curl up together, one can almost feel the earthy scent of dried grasses mixing with the faint smoke of the hearth, creating an atmosphere of primitive coziness. These simple piles of straw and foliage are humanity's earliest beds. They cushion the hard ground and insulate sleepers from the damp earth, offering a small oasis of comfort amid the wilderness. Every element of these beds is gathered by hand from the surrounding world. Springy green fronds, tufted grass, and broad leaves layered carefully to create softness. Occasionally, aromatic herbs might be added. Perhaps fresh leaves with subtle fragrances that in their quiet way help keep pesky insects at bay. In this way, even our distant ancestors learned to enhance their slumber, using nature's gentle tools to improve their rest. By the faint light of dawn, if one looked closely at such a prehistoric sleeping spot, one might see how thoughtfully it was prepared. Archaeologists today have found traces of ancient bedding dating back tens of thousands of years in caves in Africa, revealing that these early humans knew a thing or two about making a good bed. In one ancient cave, scientists discovered an old bedding site layered with reeds and rushes, topped with leaves from local plants that naturally repel insects. Long ago, a family carefully arranged that bed, perhaps over 20 square feet in area, and piled thick, large enough for parents and children to nestle together. From time to time, they even burned the used bedding, letting the smoke cleanse the ground and chase away bugs before laying down fresh plants. The scene is easy to envision. Embers glowing as the old straw smoulders safely, a thin wisp of smoke curling upward, and then new grass and leaves spread out in its place, clean and ready for another night's gentle sleep. Even before humans walked the earth, our primate ancestors had their own version of beds. High in the trees of a tropical forest millions of years ago, great apes carefully folded and wove branches to make secure nests where they could sleep safely through the night. Those leafy nests swayed softly in the treetops, cradling our distant relatives as they slept. This instinct to create a special place for rest is ancient and deeply ingrained. It connects us through time to every creature that has ever sought a soft, safe spot to close its eyes. In those primordial nights, being tucked away on a platform of woven twigs or a cushion of moss meant survival, comfort, and a few hours of peace. Time flows onward like a slow river, and we drift with it, leaving the caves and forests behind. As the epochs pass, the world gradually warms to the idea of settlements and villages. Human families begin to live in simple huts and early homes, and with this change comes the next gentle evolution of the bed. No longer must they always sleep directly on the ground. Now they can shape their environment a little more. In some of the earliest villages, people raise their sleeping areas slightly off the earth, perhaps stacking dried grasses on low platforms of packed mud or wooden planks. The goal is simple and sweet: to stay away from the dirt, the drafts, and the little crawling creatures of the ground, making the night just a bit more comfortable. In a Neolithic dwelling long ago, imagine a one-room home lit by a small clay lamp. In the centre, warm embers glow in a hearth, and to the side a sleeping platform rests against the wall. It might be made of tightly packed earth or ringed by stones, forming a box filled with straw and animal hair. A rough textile or leather mat lies on top, smoothed down where a family will soon lie. The air smells faintly of wood smoke and wool. A mother tends the fire's last light while children already doze, curled up together under a woolly hide. The father places a few more reeds into the bedding to freshen it, their gentle rustle the only sound as he settles down. This is a simple bed, but within its modest comfort lives a profound sense of safety. The family is off the ground, shielded from the cold earth, sharing warmth in the close darkness. The night passes quietly with the occasional crackle of the fire and the soft breathing of those at rest. Across different lands, similar scenes quietly unfold. In a village by the marshlands, people stuff their bedding with dried rushes from the riverbanks, letting the sweet grassy smell lull them to sleep. In a mountain cabin, pine boughs are laid beneath firs, releasing a resinous, soothing aroma as a weary traveller sinks into their prickly softness. Each culture, each small community, learns what materials around them can create the coziest nests. Slowly, these practices become traditions, passed down like lullabies through generations. One ancient site on a windswept northern island gives us a glimpse of how our ancestors slept in those early days. In what is now Scotland, over 5,000 years ago, people built snug stone dwellings at a place we call Skara Brae. Inside these sturdy huts of stone slabs, they made built-in beds, box-like frames constructed from flat stones right against the walls. Within those stone rectangles, they likely piled heather, straw, or soft fern fronds to serve as a mattress. Each house had 2 such beds flanking a central hearth, with one bed noticeably larger than the other. Perhaps the larger was meant for the head of the household, or the husband of the family, while the smaller was for the wife, or maybe for children. The stones of the bed would have been cold to the touch at first, but once filled with warm, dry bracken, and perhaps topped with animal pelts, these early beds must have been a cosy refuge from the damp chill outside. One can almost hear the Atlantic winds howling over the turf roof as a family huddles on their stone-framed beds, the firelight dancing over dry stone walls, feeling grateful for the barrier their bed gives them against the elements. And so, little by little, the idea of the bed evolves, never in a rush, always in a gentle response to the needs of the night. What began as a pile of leaves on a cave floor becomes a thoughtful assembly of materials, a designated place to surrender to sleep. Over countless evenings, the bed is refined by countless hands, yet its purpose remains ever the same, to offer respite and tranquility until the first light of morning. With each improvement, be it raising the bed off the ground, adding a softer layer, or finding a way to stay warmer, our ancestors further sanctify this small corner of life devoted to rest. The night is long but kind, and wrapped in the quiet progression of these early beds, humanity begins to learn that sleep can be not just a necessity, but a gentle comfort to cherish. Let us journey now to the world of early civilizations, where the humble bed takes on new shapes and meanings. We find ourselves drifting to the banks of the Nile, under a velvety night sky sprinkled with stars. It is ancient Egypt, around 4,000 years ago. In a grand yet peaceful bedchamber illuminated by the soft glow of oil lamps, a wooden bed stands raised gracefully off the floor. This bed is unlike the simple pallets of prehistory. It is a crafted piece of furniture. Carved from sturdy wood, its legs might be fashioned in the shape of a lion's paws, as if to silently guard the sleeper. The frame is smooth and decorated with subtle carvings of lotus flowers and hieroglyphs that catch the golden lamplight. For the wealthiest in this land, beds like these could even be gilded with gold leaf, shimmering softly in the dim light and proclaiming status without a word. Upon this Egyptian bed lies a mattress padded with wool, or stuffed with dried reeds for support. Over it are spread fine linen sheets, woven from flax grown along the Nile. The Egyptians cherished linen for its coolness and purity. It feels light and crisp to the touch, perfect for the warm climate. As our eyes wander, we notice delicate curtains of cotton or linen draped around the bed, hanging from a wooden canopy, or perhaps from the ceiling above. When drawn closed, they create a private cocoon, keeping out drafts and any curious insects that might disturb one's sleep. In the quiet of the night, these curtains stir gently with the movements of air, enclosing the sleeper in a world of soft fabric and shadows. At the head of the bed, instead of a pillow as we know it, there rests a curious object, a headrest carved from smooth wood, shaped rather like a cradling half-moon on a stand. Some headrests are even made of alabaster or stone, cool to the touch. An Egyptian sleeper will carefully place their head on this support. It might seem hard to us, but it elevates the head just so, perhaps to keep elaborate hairstyles untouched, or to prevent pests from crawling into one's hair. And in the spiritual imagination of the Egyptians, this headrest might also guard the sleeper, protecting them from bad dreams or evil spirits that roam in darkness. So in this tranquil room, a noble Egyptian drifts to sleep, their body supported by crafted wood and linen, their head gently propped on the arc of a headrest. Outside, the desert night is silent save for the distant sigh of wind over sand, and inside the sleeper breathes deeply, enwrapped in the luxury of one of history's first true beds. While the elite enjoy such finery, common folk in ancient Egypt also seek comfort in simpler ways. In a modest home of mud brick, a family lays down mats woven from palm fibres or reeds. Their bed might be a low wooden frame, plain and unadorned, with crisscrossing cords of hemp forming a taut net to support a stuffed mattress. On hot nights, they sleep on the rooftop under the open sky, a simple mat their only bed as they try to catch a cool breeze. On cooler nights, they unroll their mats indoors and cover themselves with rough woven blankets. Even without gilding or carvings, these simple beds still serve the same timeless purpose, lifting tired bodies off the hard ground and into a bit of softness and ease. In every case, whether king or labourer, the moment of slipping onto the bed and closing one's eyes is a gentle reprieve, a daily luxury that all can cherish. Now, the scene shifts gently to another cradle of civilization. We float eastward to Mesopotamia, the land between the rivers, under a similar canopy of quiet night. Here, in the cities of Sumer, Babylon and Assyria, people too have learned the art of bedcraft. Imagine an early city along the Euphrates around 2500 BCE, where the mud brick houses cluster under date palms. Inside one of these homes, lamplight dances on plastered walls as a family prepares for sleep. A simple wooden bed frame stands in the corner, lifted slightly on legs. It may not be very large, perhaps just wide enough for two people to lie close, but it is a cherished household item. The frame is lashed with strips of leather or rope in a tight weave to support a cushion. On top sits a mattress sewn from cloth and filled with wool from sheep or maybe straw from the fields. The bedding might include woven wool blankets to ward off the night's chill, and perhaps a small cushion for the head stuffed with leftover wool clippings or plant fibre. As the family settles in, their last lamplight is snuffed out, leaving only the serene dark and the distant sounds of night in the city, a dog's bark or the lowing of an ox in a pen. Mesopotamian craftsmen, much like their Egyptian counterparts, came to decorate the furniture of those who could afford it. In palaces and the homes of the wealthy, beds became objects of beauty as well as comfort. Some frames were ornately carved and inlaid with precious materials. A merchant prince or high priest might sleep on a bed embellished with bronze accents or mother-of-pearl inlays glinting in the low light. Ivory and ebony could be set into the wood in delicate patterns, evidence of trade with far lands and a desire to display one's wealth even in slumber. These fine beds often had headboards and footboards, and sometimes even railings along the sides. Just as in Egypt, steps might be placed beside a particularly high bed to help the sleeper climb up. It's a quiet luxury to imagine, a drowsy figure ascending a small step stool and slipping under embroidered covers, while ornate carvings of mythical creatures keep silent watch from the headboard. Under the same ancient skies, further to the east in the Indian subcontinent, another style of bed is taking shape, one that will endure through millennia for its simple brilliance. We find ourselves in a dusty village perhaps 3,000 years ago in what is now India. The day's heat has given way to a balmy night, and a farmer unrolls a woven mat to take his rest outside his home. But he does not lie on the ground. Instead, he rests on a charpé, a traditional woven bed that has been part of his culture for untold generations. The charpé, also known by names like cart, katia, or manji in various languages, consists of 4 sturdy wooden legs connected by a rectangular wooden frame. Across this frame, a lattice of ropes is tightly woven in an intricate crisscross pattern, forming the bed's surface. As our tired farmer sits and then lies back, the woven cords give under him just enough to be soft, yet they hold firm, supporting his weight evenly. The night breeze flows freely under and through the rope lattice, keeping him cool. Above, the stars shimmer, and the Sharpei beneath him gently adjusts to his body, almost as if cradling him. This design is so practical and comfortable that it hardly changes over thousands of years. It requires only wood and cord and can be assembled by hand in any village. By day, a Sharpei can be stood up on its side or moved easily to make space. By night, it becomes a personal oasis of rest. Families often gather on Sharpei during the evenings to talk and share the day's news before drifting off. The Sharpei's enduring presence speaks to a deep understanding. Sometimes the simplest materials, arranged in just the right way, yield the most soothing comfort. In the distance, beyond the village, one can hear faint sounds of nocturnal life, perhaps a jackal calling or the rustle of palm leaves, and our farmer, stretched out on his Sharpei, feels gratitude for the slight sway and give of his bed as he drifts into peaceful sleep. Meanwhile, far to the north and east, in ancient China, the concept of a bed is evolving along a slightly different path. Here, the nights can be bitterly cold in winter, especially in the northern plains, and families have found unique ways to stay warm and comfortable. We step into a Chinese home perhaps around 500 BCE, during a time of warring states and ancient wisdom. The house is built of wood and packed earth, and against one wall is a large raised platform made of clay bricks and earth. This platform is called a kang, and it serves as a bed and a heated living space. Throughout the day, a fire or stove attached to the kang has been lit, and its heat travels through channels under the platform, warming it like a gentle radiator. As night falls, the fire is reduced to glowing coals, and the kang remains warm for hours. A woven mat or several layers of straw and fabric are laid on top of the kang, creating a spacious bed where the family can sleep together, cozy against the cold. Lying down on the kang, one feels a soothing, enveloping warmth radiating from below, a welcome balm on a frosty night. The clay surface, warmed all through, releases heat steadily as the family drifts off. Outside, the wind might be howling, but on the kang bed there is snug comfort, children tucked close to parents under thick quilts. In other parts of ancient China and East Asia where the climate is milder, beds took on forms that emphasized flexibility and cleanliness. Instead of high-raised frames, many people slept on thick mats on the floor. In a scene from ancient times in what is now Japan or southern China, one can imagine a tatami-like mat spread on a wooden floor, with a cotton-filled quilt laid on top as a kind of simple mattress. These early forms of futon bedding could be rolled out at night and folded away in the morning, keeping living spaces multi-purpose and tidy. The materials were breathable and light, ideal for humid summers. A wooden headrest or a block pillow might still be used by those who, like the Egyptians, believed in supporting the neck differently. But often a small pillow stuffed with grain hulls or cotton would do. The emphasis here was on a bed that was part of the flow of daily life, rolled out when needed, stored when not, much like a comforting routine. All across the ancient world, from the Nile to the Ganges, from the Yellow River to the Mediterranean, the bed slowly becomes a cherished household object. Whether it is an ornate gilded four-legged frame or a simple roll-out mat, it signifies a place of repose that is elevated, symbolically and literally, above the worries of the day. Day by day, year by year, generation by generation, humans refine their sleeping arrangements not in leaps, but in gentle steps. We see how geography and climate shape these innovations. Warm lands favour breathable mats and breezy rope beds. Cooler regions develop ways to conserve warmth through thick stuffing or heated platforms. Yet the common thread remains. When night comes, each culture finds a way to create a little sanctuary of sleep. As the ancient era progresses, new ideas spread quietly along trade routes. Silk from China might line a noble's bedding in Persia. Cotton textiles from India travel to distant shores to become sheets in Mesopotamia. Through these exchanges, the world's wisdom about comfort grows interconnected. By around 1000 BCE, wealthy individuals in many societies are enjoying better beds than their forebears could have imagined. In an affluent home in the Mediterranean world, for instance, a trader might recline on a bronze-framed bed strung tightly with leather thongs, on which rests a feather-stuffed cushion brought from afar. In another corner of the world, a scholar in a Chinese state might be falling asleep on a wooden platform bed, his head on a porcelain pillow cooled by the night air. Different styles, different comforts, but all converging toward the same human dream, a gentle night's rest. With the ancient world coming alive in our minds, we continue our journey forward. The quiet march of time leads us toward new civilizations and empires, where the bed will transform yet again, taking on forms both familiar and surprisingly different. But always, it will carry that same aura of calm, a piece of everyday life that cradles us when we are most vulnerable and at peace. Now, we drift toward the classical era, where heroes and poets speak of beds in their tales, and everyday people continue to cherish the solace found atop their sleeping cushions and frames. Our voyage through time carries us now to ancient Greece, a land of marble columns and olive groves, where even the concept of a bed finds its way into legend and poetry. In the gentle darkness of a Greek home, perhaps in Athens around the 5th century BCE, a household prepares for sleep. The evening is mild and scented with the fragrance of jasmine drifting in through an open courtyard. Inside a bedchamber, a bronze oil lamp flickers with a small golden flame, casting dancing shadows on the walls painted with simple frescoes. In one corner of the room, a wooden bed awaits, known as a clinier. The frame is low and sturdy, built from polished wood. Its sleeping platform is made of leather straps or woven cords stretched tightly across the frame, providing a springy support for the mattress. The mattress itself is a large fabric sack filled with soft wool from local sheep, or maybe dried grasses mixed with fragrant herbs. On top lies a light linen coverlet, and at the head, a cushion stuffed with feathers offers a place to rest one's head. Before lying down, the Greek family might spend the last part of the evening reclining on this very bed or on couches just like it, talking quietly, or listening to someone pluck soothing notes on a lyre. Indeed, the Greeks have a custom of dining and conversing while reclining on such couches, believing that relaxation and nourishment go hand in hand. By day, these beds can serve as sofas for leisurely activities, and by night they transform into comfortable places to slumber. In richer homes, the bed might be draped with a delicate netting to keep away mosquitoes on summer nights, the gauzy fabric glimmering in the lamplight. The air inside is warm and still, save for the gentle stirring of that netting and the occasional crackle of the lamp's wick. Even in the realm of myth, the bed holds a special place for the Greeks. One famous story from their epic poetry tells of the hero Odysseus, and the bed he built for himself and his beloved wife Penelope. It was no ordinary bed. Odysseus crafted it around the living trunk of an ancient olive tree that grew right through their bedroom. He carved the wood himself, shaping the bedpost from the sturdy trunk that remained rooted in the earth, and decorated it with inlays of gold, silver, and ivory. This bed could not be moved without cutting down the tree, and so it became a secret symbol of the permanence of their love and the trust between them. For years, while Odysseus wandered far from home, that bed remained intact, waiting. When at last he returned, he knew anyone who claimed to have moved their bed was lying, and thus he proved his identity to Penelope through their shared knowledge of this steadfast bed. It's a tender image, a bed literally grown from the earth, immovable and enduring, quietly witnessing the joys and sorrows of a couple's life. In the context of our journey, it reminds us how deeply beds are woven into the human story, not just as furniture, but as emotional touchstones, symbols of home and intimacy. From the Greek world, we slip gently into the embrace of the Roman night, a few centuries later, as the classical era reaches its height. The Romans, inspired by Greek culture yet brimming with their own innovations, take the art of comfort even further. Imagine a villa in the Roman countryside around the 1st century CE. It is late evening, the day's light has faded to a soft twilight, and a cool breeze carries the scent of lavender and rosemary from the garden. In a spacious bedroom adorned with frescoes of serene landscapes, a grand bed stands as the centerpiece. Roman beds, called lectus, are often large and could be quite high off the ground. This one has an elegant frame of dark polished wood, perhaps ebony, and may even feature legs or fittings of bronze. The bed is so high that a little set of steps is placed beside it, so that one can ascend as though into a lofty perch of sleep. Climbing into such a bed is a slow, languid affair. One steps up, then sinks into the soft embrace of the mattress. The mattress would be generously stuffed, earlier in Roman history with straw or wool, but by this time possibly with feathers for those who can afford luxury. Sinking into a feather mattress, the body is gently supported yet cushioned, much like floating on a soft cloud. Over the mattress lies a sumptuous coverlet dyed in rich colours. The Romans are fond of deep purples and reds, often trimming their bedding with embroidered patterns. It's possible the fabrics are woven with fine wool or even imported silks. In a wealthy household, there might be decorative tapestries hanging behind the bed or draped at its sides. These not only add beauty but help keep out drafts, turning the bed into a warm enclosure. The pillows are small and numerous, filled with feathers or wool, used to prop oneself up comfortably either to chat before sleeping or to read by the light of an oil lamp. Yes, the Romans enjoy reading or listening to poetry in bed. A final indulgence before surrendering to slumber might be a few verses of Virgil recited softly by a family member, the words mixing with the gentle rustle of leaves outside. Not all Roman beds are ornate, of course. In a simpler domus or home, within the city of Rome, a modest family's sleeping arrangements might involve a wooden bedstead with a lattice of rope, supporting a humble mattress stuffed with straw. Before bedtime, the ropes might need tightening, a routine task, to ensure the bed doesn't sag, a detail that has quietly echoed through time in the well-wished sleep tight. The family may share this bed, or sleep on several narrow beds if space allows, covering themselves with plain wool blankets against the night air. Oil lamps are extinguished one by one, and the bustling sounds of the city die down, leaving only a distant horse's hoof or a lullaby being sung in some nearby apartment. Even in these modest quarters, the relief of lying down after a laborious day, feeling the knots of one's muscles ease into the straw mattress, is deeply satisfying. Yet the Roman talent for grandeur did leave its mark on the world of beds. There are accounts of opulent beds owned by emperors and nobles that dazzle the imagination. It is said one Roman emperor, in his taste for excess, commissioned a bed made almost entirely of silver, cold, gleaming metal shaped into a frame on which cushions were laid. Another noble might have a bed frame of ivory, carved intricately with scenes of gods and heroes. In the ruins of Pompeii, archaeologists have found cosy alcoves in villa walls that were once bedrooms. Within those spaces are the remains of beds and benches. Some of those alcoves likely had curtains or sliding doors, giving sleepers privacy and protection from drafts. One can almost reconstruct the scene. A small alcove nook, a bed fitted perfectly within it, curtains drawn across the opening, and inside a person peacefully asleep as Mount Vesuvius looms quietly in the distance, not knowing the fate that will come on an entirely different sort of day. But on this calm night we imagine, everything is as it should be. The sleeper breathes slowly, a bronze lamp flickers low on a shelf, and a woven basket at the foot of the bed holds extra blankets and perhaps a beloved scroll or two for reading. In Roman culture, to recline on a bed or couch is an everyday pleasure. They dine reclining in their triclinia, leaning on one elbow as slaves bring them dishes of fruit and bread, a slow communal way of eating that blurs into resting. After the meal, these same couches might serve as a spot for a nap, a practice that Romans heartily endorse in the heat of midday. At night, when the company has gone and the house is quiet, these couches serve as beds for some, or they retire to separate bedchambers if the house is large. In poorer districts, many might share one room for all activities. A simple platform or even a straw mat becomes a bed once day turns to night. Regardless of status, the cycle of day to night brings a familiar routine, removing sandals, loosening togas or tunics, and finding rest on whatever bed one has, from the simplest cot to the most lavish lectus draped in silk. As we leave the classical world, we carry forward images of comfort that feel surprisingly intimate and modern. Feather pillows being fluffed in a Roman villa, a Greek mother tucking her child under a light blanket while humming a gentle tune. These scenes could be from yesterday or 2 millennia ago, reminding us that the essence of a peaceful bedtime transcends eras. The bed has firmly established itself as a cherished haven by this point in history. But our journey is far from over. Ahead lies the vast expanse of the medieval world. where the bed will transform again to meet new needs and reflect new dreams, all while continuing to offer that same sweet refuge in the dark of night. The fall of Rome gives way to centuries that we often call the Middle Ages, and with them come new ways of living and sleeping. In the early medieval period, life is simpler and often harder, and homes are generally small and drafty. Imagine a humble timber cottage in a European village around the 8th century. The walls are wattle and daub, the floors packed earth. As night gathers, a family prepares for bed in the single room that makes up their home. In one corner they have placed a low wooden bench against the wall, or perhaps simply cleared a space on the floor. On this spot, a mattress has been arranged, essentially a large bag sewn from coarse cloth and stuffed generously with straw, hay, or maybe dried leaves. If they are fortunate, some wool or animal hair might be mixed into the filling for extra warmth and softness. Throughout the day, this lumpy mattress has been rolled or propped up, but now for the night it is spread out flat. The parents and children remove their outer garments and settle down together on the mattress, which might be about the size of a modern double bed but shared by the whole family. They pull over themselves a patchwork of covers, perhaps a large linen sheet if they own one to wrap themselves in, and on top of that heavy woolen blankets. In many homes, cured animal skins serve as blankets too, adding heft and warmth. A bear hide or several sheepskins laid furry side down over the sleeping family to trap their body heat. The air inside the cottage is cool and a little smoky, since the central hearth fire has died to faint embers. The only light is a dim glow from those coals and maybe a small clay oil lamp flickering on a ledge. Before sleeping, someone might mutter a quiet prayer. It's known that folks in these times sometimes sleep in shifts, a first sleep for a few hours after dusk, then a peaceful wakeful period around midnight where they might stir, add a log to the fire, whisper thoughts or prayers, and then drift into a second sleep until dawn. In this nightly rhythm there is no rush, only a gentle ebb and flow between sleep and wakefulness that the large communal bed accommodates. Even in these simple medieval beds, a bit of care is given to comfort. The straw mattress might be sprinkled with pleasant-smelling herbs such as lavender, thyme or chamomile, both to ward off insects and to impart a clean, soothing scent. As the family lies together, the fragrance of those herbs mingles with the rustic smells of wood smoke and wool. If one were to shift on the bed, the straw would rustle softly. It's a familiar, homely sound that almost lulls them further. A child might stir and feel a parent's reassuring arm around them in the dark. Such closeness is necessary. The nights can be cold, and the shared body warmth is as important as any blanket. As the Middle Ages progress, those of greater means begin to refine their sleeping arrangements once again. By the 12th century or so, in the keep of a stone castle or the manor house of a prosperous lord, one would find a very different bedtime scene. Let us step into a castle bedchamber on a winter night. The room is large and mostly bare stone, which during the day feels chilly and echoes with footsteps. But at night it transforms into a cozier enclave, thanks to tapestries hung on the walls depicting forest or hunting scenes. These heavy tapestries are not just for art. They insulate the room against drafts. In the centre of the chamber stands a great wooden bed raised high off the floor. It is supported by carved oak legs and struts, the woodwork richly detailed with carvings of vines or perhaps the family crest. A stepping stool sits at its side, as the bed's surface is chest high. On the bed is a sizable mattress, much thicker than the straw ticks of the poor. This one might be filled with downy feathers, or a combination of wool and feather for firmness and softness. It's encased in a fine linen ticking, a sturdy cloth cover to hold everything in. The lord and lady prepare to retire. Servants have already warmed the bed by the fire earlier in the evening, perhaps with heated pans or hot bricks wrapped in cloth briefly run between the sheets. Now the covers are turned down invitingly. These covers are splendid. Layers of linens, wool blankets, and on top, an ermine or fur-lined silk coverlet that glimmers in the faint candlelight. The pillows, there are several, are plump with goose feathers and dressed in embroidered pillowcases. Above, from the ceiling or attached to the bed's tall posts, thick curtains of embroidered fabric hang on all sides. Once the lord and lady climb in and draw these curtains closed, they will be enclosed in their own snug world. The curtains are deep green velvet, maybe, or rich brocade, heavy enough to block any cold air seeping through the shuttered windows. When fully drawn, they also cloak the couple in darkness and privacy. muffling the sounds of the castle slightly. In that enveloping darkness, with just a soft breathing of their spouse audible nearby, one can easily feel the deepest sense of safety and comfort despite the vast, cold fortress around them. Meanwhile, many servants of the household sleep on simpler pallets or trundle beds not far away, perhaps in an adjoining chamber, or even on the floor of the same room if they must remain close at hand. But for the lord and lady, the bed is a distinct space, almost a room within a room. So important is this piece of furniture that it often figures into inventories and dowries. A fine bed, with its hangings and feather mattress, is a prized possession, something one might pass down through generations. It's not uncommon that in wills of the time, a person bequeaths their second best bed to a relative, because beds are among the costliest and most cherished items they own. Bed frames during these times become more elaborate as well. Woodworkers and carpenters take pride in carving posts and headboards with ever greater skill. Some beds feature a canopy overhead, called a tester, either suspended from the ceiling or supported by 4 posts rising from the corners of the bed. Under these testers, the bed truly feels like a small house of its own. The space between the bed and the wall even gets its own name in French, la ruelle, the little street. In very fashionable homes, close friends might be invited into this intimate space for hushed conversations, sitting on the edge of the bed. A curious custom to modern eyes, but one that underscores how a grand bedchamber could serve both as a private sleeping quarter and a semi-public reception room in noble households. But those formalities aside, once the guests are gone, the candles snuffed except for perhaps one, and the curtains drawn, the bedchamber returns to tranquility. Inside thick curtains, the sleepers breathe in warm air perfumed faintly by the lavender sachets that were tucked between the sheets. Outside the curtains, a dying fire in the hearth casts a gentle orange glow, and the stone walls guard the silence. The winter wind might be howling beyond the castle, but inside this curtained bed one hears almost nothing. Maybe the faintest whistle of air or the distant call of an owl. The bed's heavy draperies are doing their job well, creating a bubble of quiet and warmth for the sleepers to dream in. Not every medieval improvement in bedding was limited to the nobility. Over time, even common folk made small strides toward comfort where they could. By the later Middle Ages, more farmers and townspeople had beds raised on simple frames to avoid the dirt floors, even if just a crude construction of rough planks. A typical yeoman's family might have a bed frame strung with rope or leather strips to support their mattress. Tightening these ropes periodically kept the bed from sagging, something they might do each evening, tugging the cords and securing pegs so that the sleeping surface remained firm. Children might sleep in a trundle bed, a low rolling cot that could be stowed under the main bed during the day to save space, then pulled out at night. In such a household, resourceful mothers would replenish the mattress stuffing when it began to break down, emptying out old flattened straw to replace it with fresh straw or hay from the harvest, and tossing in a handful of dried herbs for good measure. Those mattresses were heavy and awkward to move, but airing them out under the sun now and then was a practice understood to keep them fresher. And so, even without luxuries, the basic bed continued to evolve gradually in ordinary homes, becoming a slightly better place to rest one's head with each passing generation. During these medieval nights, sleep is often a communal experience. Families sleep side by side, servants sleep at the foot of their master's bed, or in the hall just outside, and travellers at inns share beds with strangers out of necessity. While it may seem lacking in privacy to modern eyes, there is a quiet comfort in these close arrangements. The sound of another person's soft breathing in the dark, the warmth radiating from a companion under the same blanket. These are reassurances that one is not alone against the vast darkness of night. In a world without electric lights or instant communication, night truly transforms the world, and companionship is an antidote to the fears it might bring. So, a brother's elbow jostling you in his sleep, or a friend's foot seeking warmth by yours, were just part of the tapestry of nighttime, accepted and even cherished. As the medieval period progresses toward its end, beds continue to grow in size and splendour, especially for those who can afford extravagance. By the 15th century, some beds in royal palaces are enormous, wide enough to sleep several people comfortably. They're raised high and dressed in the finest textiles Europe can offer. We hear of beds that are 7 or 8 feet long and nearly as wide, towering like giants in the room, These are more than just places to sleep. They are status symbols crafted by master artisans. A great bed might be adorned with the family's coat of arms or embellished with gold leaf on its carvings. Royals and nobles treat their beds almost like thrones. In fact, formal ceremonies and morning greetings sometimes occur with the noble person still sitting up in bed, bedecked in pillows and fine sheets, receiving courtiers at their bedside in an age-old ritual of showing favour. Such customs will carry forward into the next centuries, but on this gentle night at the close of the Middle Ages, we simply see how far the bed has come. From a heap of straw on cave ground, it has become in some cases a magnificent chamber of its own. Yet at heart it remains what it always was, a safe haven from the elements and troubles of the day. With the first light of dawn creeping through wooden shutters or around the edges of a heavy curtain, the sleepers of the medieval world stir and awaken. They fold their blankets, say their morning prayers, and step onto chilly floors, leaving the warm impression of their bodies behind in the dents of mattresses. Another day begins, and the beds, be they humble or grand, will be left empty for a time, patiently awaiting the night's return when they can once again offer comfort. And as we leave this era, we too carry onward, ready to see how the Renaissance and the modern age will further transform the quiet, enduring art of sleep. The dawn of the Renaissance in the 15th and 16th centuries brings with it an age of rediscovery, art, and yes, comfort. As traders, explorers and thinkers broaden Europe's horizons, even the humble bed benefits from new ideas and materials. In the Italian Renaissance, wealthy patrons of Florence and Venice commission beds that are nothing short of works of art. These beds often feature towering canopies with sumptuous draperies, fine carvings and rich fabrics that have travelled from distant lands. A merchant in Venice might lie down on silk sheets dyed a deep indigo, shipped from the Orient, and pull over himself a coverlet of Italian velvet, its soft pile catching the light of a dozen beeswax candles that illuminate the bedroom with a steady golden glow. The bed frame could be intricately carved with scenes from mythology or foliage, reflecting the era's love of classical motifs and natural beauty. At the head of the bed, an elaborate headboard might rise, upholstered and studded with gilt nails, serving as a comfortable backrest when sitting up. In this period, the bedroom itself begins to transform into a more private and lavish sanctuary, especially for those of high status. The term bedchamber becomes associated not just with sleeping, but with an intimate space adorned to display one's wealth and taste. Nobles would invite very close confidants into their bedchamber for personal discussions, surrounded by tapestries, cushioned chairs, and the grand bed itself as a centerpiece. The bed is elevated, literally and figuratively, to new heights. It's reported that in Tudor England, large beds sometimes became family heirlooms passed down for their value. One famous example from around 1580 is the Great Bed of Ware, an enormous bed built in England, reputed to be over 10 feet wide. Legend says it was so large that it could comfortably sleep 4 couples or a dozen single travellers all at once without anyone feeling crowded. This gigantic bed was likely a showpiece at an inn, something travellers would marvel at and mention in their diaries. Indeed, it even found its way into literature. Shakespeare makes a witty reference to the Great Bed of Ware in one of his plays, indicating how renowned and almost comically grand it was. One can picture a weary traveller arriving at the inn in Ware and being directed to this colossal bed, climbing in alongside strangers and finding, to their surprise, that there was ample room to stretch out. It must have felt almost like sleeping in a roomy barn rather than a bed, a quirky but ultimately restful experience, swathed in heavy blankets on a cold English night. By the 17th century, the appetite for luxury and furnishings reached a peak, especially in France. That era has been called the century of magnificent beds, and rightly so. In the French royal court, the bed was not just for sleeping, it was a stage for daily rituals of power and etiquette. Consider the bedchamber of Louis XIV, the Sun King, at his palace of Versailles. On a soft morning, pale sunlight filters through lace-curtained windows of the ornate room. At the centre, elevated on a dais of a couple of steps, stands the king's bed under an immense embroidered canopy. The curtains of the bed are a deep crimson velvet, embroidered heavily with gold thread. They depict elaborate scenes. Perhaps the Roman goddess Venus rising from the sea, stitched in shimmering metallic hues. So much gold and fine work cover the fabric that hardly a bit of the velvet underneath is visible. The headboard is gilded and grand, bearing the royal monogram and sun motifs. The bed linens themselves are of the highest quality linen, edged with lace and changed constantly by a cadre of attentive servants. The whole room smells faintly of fresh rose petals, as courtiers have scattered them in anticipation of the king's awakening, and a hint of perfume lingering from the previous night. In such a bed, Louis XIV would ceremonially wake each day. It was customary for certain privileged nobles to be present quietly in the room for the lever, the king's rising. One can imagine the delicate stillness as the king opens his eyes, perhaps taking a moment to remain nestled in the warmth of his grand bed, while attendants draw back the heavy bed curtains. In that moment, the bed is both a private haven and a public throne. Louis XIV, in fact, was said to have owned an astonishing number of beds, over 400 by some accounts, scattered across his various palaces and residences. Each was lavish, unique, and meticulously maintained, suitable for receiving dignitaries or conducting affairs of state from under brocade covers if he so wished. It was an age when being received in someone's bedchamber, or even at their bedside, was a mark of great favour and intimacy. Not only kings indulged in fine beds during these times, the nobility across Europe followed suit in emulating opulence. In Baroque-era Spain, a noblewoman might have a bed draped in pale blue silk, with gold-fringed valances and a soft mattress filled with the finest lamb's wool. In the courts of Germany and Austria, four-poster beds carved out of dark walnut or mahogany became treasured pieces, their posts sometimes spiralled or fluted and adorned with angels or crests at the top. These beds were so tall that a canopy nearly brushed the high ceilings of palatial homes, making the sleeper feel almost like they were elevated into the heavens as they lay down. Many of these beds required sets of portable steps for one to climb up, especially for ladies in flowing nightgowns. And when they settled into the mound of feather beds and pillows, it was not uncommon for a warming pan to have been run between the sheets on cold evenings, a brass pan filled with hot coals which would gently heat the bedding so that no shock of cold linen would disturb the initial comfort of lying down. While Europe saw increasingly grand beds, other parts of the world too had rich traditions continuing into these centuries. In the Ottoman Empire, lavish use of textiles defined comfort. Soft divans, a kind of low-sitting daybed or couch, lined the walls of large rooms piled with cushions and bolsters. At night, bedding could be spread on these divans or on raised platforms, and people slept surrounded by luxurious embroidered fabrics under domed ceilings. The idea of separate bedrooms was less pronounced. Instead, rooms were multifunctional, with bedding brought out at night and stored by day, particularly in households without European-style furniture. Still, comfort was highly regarded. Thick quilts filled with cotton or wool, called yorgans in Turkey, and large long pillows were part of the sleeping gear, often covered in satin or fine cotton. In many ways, this continued the age-old tradition of creating a soft space for slumber within a multi-use living area. Far across the Atlantic in the lush tropics of the New World, European explorers in the 15th and 16th centuries encountered a very different kind of bed that indigenous people were using, the hammock. Instead of a fixed frame or a mat on the ground, the locals crafted strong nets or cloth slings from cotton and plant fibres, which they hung between two supports, often trees under the open sky. When the Europeans first saw hammocks, they were amazed at the simplicity and genius of the design. A hammock gently conforms to the body and sways softly with any movement. It keeps the sleeper off the ground, safe from dampness, critters and dirt, allowing cooling breezes to circulate all around. Under the dense canopy of a Caribbean night, a person might lie in a hammock listening to the chorus of insects and distant waves, feeling as though they were being cradled in midair. It didn't take long for sailors to realise that hammocks could revolutionise sleeping at sea. By the 17th century, naval ships and merchant vessels had adopted hammocks for their crews. In the hold of a rocking ship, where a traditional bunk or bed would tip and toss a man onto the floor with each roll of the waves, a hammock would simply swing with the motion, keeping the sleeper snugly in place. Imagine a sailor finishing a long watch, climbing down into the dim berth deck of a great galleon. He finds his own canvas hammock, hanging in a row among dozens of others gently swaying like cocoons in the darkness. With a practiced motion, he lowers himself into it. The material wraps around him, supporting his tired limbs. As the ship pitches and yawns through the ocean swells, his hammock shifts gracefully, absorbing the motion. The creaking of the ship's timber frames becomes a lullaby when paired with the rhythmic swing of the hammock. Many a sailor came to prefer this odd floating sleep, finding that it gave them deep rest despite the tumult of storms or the cramped quarters. And when morning came, hammocks could be efficiently rolled up and stowed away, leaving space to move about the ship. This widespread adoption of the hammock is a testament to how ideas about beds have always travelled and been exchanged. A tool of comfort from one culture can swiftly be embraced by another when its benefits are felt. The hammock, originally the invention of the indigenous peoples of the Americas, who called it by names like hamaca, thus joined the global story of beds. It added the notion that a bed need not even have a solid base at all. It could float, tethered at 2 points, making a kind of portable cloud on which to drift off. Even today, many people around the world enjoy dozing in hammocks, whether strung up on a porch during a summer afternoon or used as a primary bed in a warm climate, continuing this gentle tradition of sleeping suspended in the air. Returning to Europe by the 18th century, the style of beds began to shift subtly once more. In France, fully enclosed beds with curtains on all sides gradually gave way to a style called à la duchesse, where the canopy, or tester, was attached only at the head of the bed and did not extend the full length. This meant the foot of the bed was open, giving a less boxed-in feel while still retaining an extravagant headboard and draped elegance overhead. Such beds might be placed sideways against a wall with an array of decorative pillows propped against the headboard during the day. In England, however, the traditional four-poster bed with curtains remained popular well into the 19th century among those who could afford them, emblematic of coziness and privacy. The materials stuffed into mattresses also saw innovation. People became experimental in the quest for the perfect cushioning. In the 1700s, along with the usual straw and feathers, you might find mattresses filled with cotton, thanks to trade with India and the American colonies providing more cotton fibre, or stuffed with horsehair, which provided a firmer, springier support and didn't compact as quickly as straw. Some even tried exotic fibres like coconut coir, fibres from coconut husks, or kapok, silky fibres from ceiba trees, in pursuit of comfort. Artisans who specialised in making mattresses and cushions were in demand by the wealthy, to sew together these new fillings in ticks, sturdy covers, and tuft them so that the stuffing would stay evenly distributed. Each improvement meant a softer, more even surface to sleep on, a subtle but meaningful advancement that would have been appreciated on aching backs and weary limbs. As the late 18th century approached, one more significant change was brewing in the world of beds, born from the same spirit of progress that defined the age: the introduction of metal bed frames. Traditionally, beds had been made of wood, which, while beautiful, had a drawback. Wood could harbour insects like bedbugs, much to the dismay of sleepers. It was discovered that iron and brass, new materials made affordable by burgeoning industry, could be fashioned into bed frames that were not only sturdy and elegant in a minimalist way, but also less hospitable to pests. By the end of the 1700s and into the early 1800s, advertisements began to appear for iron beds that promised a cleaner, more hygienic sleeping experience. Picture a rather modern-looking bed for that time: slender iron posters and bars, perhaps painted white or black, forming a simple headboard and footboard with decorative curves or finials. These metal beds might seem austere compared to the hulking wooden four-posters, but they offered a new kind of peace of mind. A person lying in an iron bed might still use the same feather mattress and warm quilts as before, but they could rest a bit easier knowing that the frame beneath them was less likely to conceal unwelcome tiny guests. The gentle creak of metal springs, if the frame had them, replaced the creak of wood, and such beds often had a lighter appearance, making bedrooms feel more spacious and airy. The world is on the cusp of the Industrial Revolution, and even as nights remain as quiet and gentle as ever, the things people sleep on are about to change more rapidly than ever before. But before we move fully into the age of steam and invention, we take one last lingering look at a candlelit 18th century bedroom. The embers in the fireplace glow faintly, the silhouette of a grand bed, be it carved wood or polished brass, stands tranquil against the wall, and under layers of exquisite fabric a family or a couple drifts in dreams. The bed has journeyed through the ages to this point, growing with human society and artistry and comfort. Now, as the scene transitions into the 19th century, it will quietly welcome the miracles of modern invention, all aimed at making sleep even sweeter. As the 19th century unfolds, the Industrial Revolution sweeps across the world, quietly transforming even our sleeping hours. Factories and new machinery mean that items once made slowly by hand, including components of beds and bedding, can now be produced faster and in greater numbers. The effect is subtle but profound. Comfort, once a luxury for the few, begins to spread more widely among the growing middle class. In bustling Victorian cities, a shopkeeper or a clerk can now afford a bed with a quality that might have been reserved for nobility a century before. Cotton, which was once an exotic material, becomes king, spun and woven in the new mills of Lancashire and New England. Machine-woven cloth from these mills means bed linens can be produced quickly and in large quantities, making sheets and pillowcases more affordable than ever before. For the first time, many families can own multiple sets of sheets and change them regularly, keeping their beds crisp, clean and sweet-smelling throughout the year. It also means that comfort itself becomes more democratic. A typical Victorian bedroom now might boast small luxuries that were unimaginable for a peasant in medieval times. Cool, crisp cotton sheets and pillowcases find their way into ordinary homes, replacing rougher fabrics. One can imagine an English household in the 1850s proudly laying out freshly bought cotton bedsheets on their bed, the fabrics smooth and inviting, perhaps with a simple floral pattern printed on by new techniques. The room is lit by gaslight, a modern convenience, and the iron bedstead gleams slightly in the corner. The bed frame, made of cast iron with brass accents, has a clean design of vertical bars and swirling ornamentation, quite a contrast to the heavy carved wooden posts of earlier times. It stands on 4 slender legs, giving the bed an airier look and making it easier to sweep underneath, a boon for cleanliness in the Victorian emphasis on hygiene. But the real revolution in the mattress is just emerging. For centuries, the softness of a bed depended on its fillings. More or less stuffing determined how plush it was. Now, inventors take a different approach, using metal springs to support the sleeper. In the mid-1800s, the first coil spring mattresses appear, though they are initially a curiosity and not widely adopted. Picture a forward-thinking family in about 1880 who has acquired one of these new spring mattresses. The father presses down on the bed and marvels as it yields and then springs back with resilience. The children giggle as they sit and bounce ever so gently, feeling a new kind of buoyancy under them. At bedtime, when the house is finally quiet, the mother lies down and notices that the mattress doesn't sag in the middle as the old stuffed one sometimes did. Instead, it supports her evenly. There's a faint squeak of springs adjusting to her weight, a new lullaby of the industrial age mixing with the familiar tick of the clock on the mantel. This mattress doesn't need to be fluffed or shaken out as vigorously to maintain its shape. The springs inside, like tiny coiled guardians, push up to support her through the night. Such early spring mattresses might have been experimental and rare, but they herald a change that would become commonplace in the next century. Victorian bedrooms reflect the era's blend of innovation and tradition. A typical well-to-do bedroom around 1890 might have an iron-framed bed piled high, with a feather mattress for softness, atop a new spring support for strength and lift. Over that might still lie a feather bed or a woolen topper, as people eased into the idea of metal springs by combining them with known comforts. The bed is dressed in layers of quilts, and perhaps one of the new eider down comforters, fluffy covers filled with down feathers that have come into vogue. Heavy draped canopies are gradually disappearing from fashion. Instead, simpler canopies or no canopies at all become common, as homes are better heated and the fear of nighttime drafts lessens. A small fireplace or a new radiator in the room keeps the chill at bay, so the cocoon of curtains is less a necessity than before. Many Victorian beds do have a decorative headboard and footboard, sometimes inlaid or painted, and the idea of matching bedroom furniture sets, bed, wardrobe, dressing table, becomes popular, reflecting a new sense of style coherence. With industry also comes the ability to standardize and scale. Bed sizes start to become more uniform, The notions of twin or double beds, for instance, are solidified in this period, making it easier for someone to buy a mattress and frame that fit each other perfectly from a catalogue or department store. The availability of affordable cotton ticking and sewing machines means even country households can stitch their own mattress covers and pillows more easily than their ancestors who did everything by hand. And as the world moves into the early 20th century, these trends continue and accelerate. By the 1920s and 1930s, the inner spring mattress truly comes into its own. Manufacturers perfected the use of steel coils inside mattresses, often sandwiching them between layers of cotton batting or horsehair, and encasing the whole thing in sturdy quilted fabric. These new mattresses provided a level of support that was game-changing for comfort. No longer did one have to sleep on a lump of compressed straw that needed regular replacing. A good spring mattress would hold its shape for years. Couples found that these mattresses didn't roll them together as much. One person could move on their side of the bed and, aside from a soft, springy sound, not disturb their partner as much as on the old style of mattress. It was a quieter revolution in the bedroom than, say, the electric lamp or radio, but just as transformative in daily life. Now, a good night's sleep was a bit easier to come by consistently, and waking without a sore back became more common. As we travel further into the 20th century, the pace of change in beds picks up like never before. New materials developed for other purposes find their way into our sleeping quarters. Take foam rubber, for example. In the 1930s, scientists and engineers learned to create a foam from latex, natural rubber, that was springy and soft. Initially used in seat cushions, it wasn't long before someone thought to make an entire mattress of latex foam. Imagine the surprise of lying down on one of the first foam mattresses. It must have felt remarkably different, yielding gently without the slight unevenness of fibre stuffing or the subtle give of coils. It was uniform, like sleeping on a firm, springy cloud that conformed to the body's contours. These latex mattresses began to appear mid-century and offered an alternative for those seeking something new. Around the same time, novel ideas in bed design captured the public's imagination. In the 1960s and 70s, a wave of experimentation with lifestyle and technology even influenced how people slept. One iconic invention of that era was the modern waterbed. The concept had ancient roots. As we've noted, Persians had tried sleeping on sun-warmed water in goatskins. But the 20th century version was decidedly more high-tech. A mattress-sized vinyl bladder filled with water, often heated slightly to body temperature. Many a young couple in the 1970s was enticed by the countercultural allure of the waterbed. It was different, almost symbolizing a free-flowing approach to life. But beyond the novelty, there was a genuine appeal in the sensation it provided. Lying on a waterbed, one felt a gentle, enveloping support as the water displaced to cradle the body. If you moved, you might set off a slow wave that would rhythmically bounce you until it settled, rather like being rocked in the arms of a very large, warm ocean. Some people found this immensely soothing, as if returning to a womb-like tranquility. Others found it a bit disconcerting, or found the maintenance troublesome. Nonetheless, for a time, waterbeds became quite popular, and many bedrooms were outfitted with sturdy frames to hold these sloshing yet serene mattresses. On a quiet night, the gentle hum of the waterbed heater and the soft lap of water inside the mattress could lull a person into an easy sleep as they floated, literally, on their bed. In the late 20th century, space-age technology found its way to our bedrooms in the form of memory foam. Originally engineered by NASA scientists in the 1960s to cushion astronauts during launch, this special type of foam had the remarkable quality of moulding itself to whatever weight pressed on it, and then slowly springing back to its original shape. By the 1990s, memory foam mattresses hit the consumer market, and they introduced yet another unique sleeping experience. Lying down on memory foam feels different from a spring mattress. At first it is firm, then gradually it yields, contouring around one's shoulders, hips, and limbs in a warm embrace. Pressure points that might trouble a person on a harder surface practically melt away. The foam distributes body weight evenly. Some describe it as the mattress hugging them softly. To a tired person with aching joints, this innovation was nothing short of a dream. Turn over at night, and the foam slowly reshapes to your new position, never jostling your partner or squeaking. The silence and steady support of memory foam made it a favourite for many who sought relief from insomnia and pains. It was as if the mattress itself had learned to be attentive and adaptive, cradling each sleeper in a custom-fit mould every night. By the turn of the 21st century, our beds have become a delightful fusion of thousands of years of wisdom and the latest in design and science. In many homes, the basic form of a bed is still the same comforting rectangle that it has been since antiquity, but now one can choose what lies beneath. Inner springs, latex foam, memory foam, air chambers, or even the continued gentle ripple of water. Beds can be quite high-tech too, though they wear their technology quietly. There are beds that can be adjusted at the push of a button, sitting you up or elevating your legs as if a helpful invisible hand is there to reduce your snoring or ease your back. Some beds come with heating or cooling elements, to warm cold feet on a winter's eve or keep one cool on a summer night. We even have beds that can monitor our heartbeat and breathing, joining the trend of smart devices that quietly watch over us for the sake of health. Yet, all these advancements are implemented in a way that still preserves the bed's primary role as a place of peace. The motors in adjustable beds hum softly, almost like a cat's purr, and cease as soon as the desired position is reached. The heating elements provide a gentle warmth, akin to the comforting presence of a hearth in olden times, but safe and even. The sensors that track sleep do so invisibly. There is no disturbance, just the steady assurance that come morning, one might even have data on how deeply they slept, as if the bed itself had been attentive all night. Contemporary trends also show a return to natural materials and simplicity for many people. There is a growing appreciation for organic cotton sheets, breathable bamboo fibres, and mattresses made of natural latex or filled with the wool, materials that echo those first beds of leaves and grass, but refined to modern tastes and standards. Some individuals choose minimalist beds, like futons on tatami mats in the Japanese style, embracing the age-old notion that a bed can be both simple and comfortable, and that perhaps less is more when it comes to achieving a clear, restful mind. Others have rediscovered hammocks, that ancient invention of the Americas, now hung in backyards or even indoors as alternative places to nap or meditate, the gentle sway bringing a sense of calm that transcends time. And so, we arrive at tonight. The world around us is filled with the fruits of all this history. The bed in your room might be made of steel or carved wood, topped with a mattress that benefits from inventions as old as weaving or as new as space-age foam. Perhaps you have plump pillows stuffed with down, similar to what a Roman patrician might have enjoyed, and a knitted blanket, a craft known for centuries, or a plush duvet that harkens back to those first eider-down comforters of Northern Europe. The essence of what we seek each night, however, is unchanged. We close our eyes and yearn for rest, for safety, for that drifting sensation that carries us to dreams. The bed, whether a heap of straw or a tech-savvy adjustable frame, has always been our vessel for that journey. In the stillness of your own room, you might take a moment to appreciate the long story woven into every stitch of your bedding and every coil of your mattress. Each night when you pull up your covers, you are part of a tradition as old as humanity itself. The quiet comfort you feel has been carefully built and improved by countless loving hands and clever minds over thousands of years. Even in our fast-paced world, brimming with artificial lights and constant activity, the bed remains a haven where we deliberately slow down. Every night we perform a ritual not so different from those of long ago. We dim the lights, now electric lamps or glowing screens instead of oil lanterns, and we let the outside world recede. We draw the curtains, much like our ancestors did, to keep out the night's distractions, now more likely the glare of city lights than a cold draft. We slip under our blankets, creating a small womb of warmth and quiet where the buzzing of modern life cannot intrude. In this surrender to darkness and silence, we reconnect with something primal. No matter how advanced our surroundings become, when we are in bed, we allow ourselves to be simply human, breathing, dreaming beings at rest, just as people have done on straw, on cotton, or on foam since the beginning of time. And though the world outside has transformed beyond recognition, the simple pleasure of a soft place to lay one's head endures unchanged. Tonight, the story of beds has come full circle. Our exploration has been long and winding, but it has brought us back to the simplest truth. At the end of the day, a bed is a place of refuge. No matter how advanced or humble, it cradles us as we surrender to the quiet vulnerability of sleep. It whispers the same invitation to each of us, to lie down, to breathe slowly, and to drift into the gentle realm of dreams. May your bed carry you softly into that realm, as every good bed through time has done, and may you find sweet, peaceful rest, a gift from the countless sleepy nights of history to you. And that brings us to the end of our slow journey through the history of beds, from ancient straw and stone to the soft, familiar place you lie in now. Thanks for drifting off with Bore Me to Bed. Sleep well, and we'll see you next time, somewhere quiet in history.